Hello, and welcome to the LinkedIn Studio at Cannes. I'm Tanya Garrett, and I lead agency development here at LinkedIn. B2B marketing has spent years chasing numbers that look great on a report or a dashboard. But the reality is they fall apart in the budget conversation. Why? Because the CFO does not care about reach. They care about pipeline. I'm joined today by two amazing agency leaders to talk about connecting creative investment to real business outcomes. Welcome, Melissa and Chris.
Thanks, Tanya.
So let's get into it. Let's start with quick intros. Tell us who you are, what you do, and the metric you've had to talk a client out of. Melissa, I'll kick it off to you.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Thank you, Tanya. So good to be here again and with our crew. Good to see you again, Chris. Melissa Berger. I'm with Digitas. I work on our North America team, but touch a lot of our global clients. I am the Chief Solutions Officer, and what does that mean? It means that I have teams of specialists in CRM and loyalty, in social and in commerce, and we also focus a lot on B2B. So spend a lot of times just on organic growth, new business opportunities. And my team, I like to call them ninjas. Like they can do a little bit of everything, but we're basically an enablement team here to help, working directly with our client leaders and our growth team.
Love it. Yeah. What's the metric you get to talk a client out of?
Oh gosh, you know, it's interesting. I don't know that it's about talking them out of it, but I think too much reliance is on impressions. Yay, we got people to come. But did they do anything? And so it's not about talking them out of it, but it's about being, that's one individual metric. It should never be what you're mapping against, which I know we'll talk a little bit more about. So I think it's just a matter of like helping them like turn the corner a little bit on the macro view instead of the very small individual view.
Slowly guiding them.
Absolutely.
Chris, over to you.
Yeah, so Chris Bagnall, the founder and CEO of Transmission. Transmission is a global B2B marketing agency, only working with B2B organizations right around the world. What I'm responsible for, apart from running the company and making sure that we deliver on our promises to our clients. I guess the metric that I probably spend most of the time trying to convince clients not to focus on, which we'll probably end up talking about in some length today, is the volume-based approach to lead generation, how we should not be so focused on it.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Okay, well, let's get into the questions and get some more of the B2B conversation. This will be for both of you. I'll stay with you, Chris. What does it actually take to shift a B2B team from optimizing for impressions and optimizing for outcomes? Melissa just mentioned that a little bit.
Yeah, I think firstly it takes a fundamental shift in how a business views the contribution of marketing in general, and how it views the contribution in relation to the growth of the business, first and foremost. Then aligned with that, how marketing is tasked with certain KPIs that are aligned to that growth. And I think the industry that we're in has been so focused around funnel and nurture marketing for so long that it's driven a lot of the bad tactics that we've seen. You know, volume-based impression marketing, volume-based lead goal marketing, which in turn then drives a whole series of bad behaviors in the business that are not necessarily in keeping with modern business content consumption and what we expect nowadays. So I think the rules of the game have changed. We need to respond as marketers that we need to change our tactics. We need to stop being so focused on, you know, volume-based programs like volume content syndication programs. We need to be stopping being so obsessed with putting gated forms in front of every piece of content that we've got simply to hit a KPI goal that is a false goal that we've been given by the organization. And I think fundamentally the business needs a re-education around how modern marketing works, how B2B buyers consume information nowadays. And we've got to respond to that. And so I think, you know, we mentioned it right at the start, a big part of my job and our agency's job is to educate the market as to what not to do, as opposed to what to do as well.
What's possible.
Yep.
Melissa, you already mentioned this, so tell us more about how you're guiding your team.
Well, one of the things that actually your team has shared with us over and over, and it's such a great little snap, outcomes, not optics, right? And I love that. I've been giving you guys credit everywhere. It's so simple, but I think that's really important because a lot of marketers, and I know we're getting into kind of the CFO conversation as well, they want to know that every dollar spent is bringing the return. And unfortunately, I think that there's been some probably not data-driven decisions that have, the gut, the feel, really pushing that, and it hasn't actually returned anything for the business. So I think the shift has been a lot about, again, when we went back to what I said before about just impressions, what's the health look like of your customers? And to me, that's all the individual metrics absolutely are important, but to me, that's not the ones to watch. What's to watch is how are you taking your customer base, moving them up the value chain? How are you driving deeper penetration? And then if you're building the right relationship with them, they're gonna talk about you. We know this is like the oldest thing of time. So to me, it's really about kind of shifting the conversation to how are we building a relationship? How are we making sure that they're trusting us? And then we can use that to actually shift them into understanding what the outcomes should be for their business and for their customers.
We love the outcomes, not optics.
Absolutely.
Stay with you, Melissa, on that. The ROI conversation with our favorite person.
Yes.
We love them,
Yes.
the CFO.
Yes.
How are you helping that conversation ensure it goes well? And then what actually kills the conversation?
So it's a great question. And, we've really been thinking at, our good old marketing agencies, QBRs, right? They're great. We always have to have QBRs. But we've started to shift the conversation instead of just like, here's a bunch of charts on how your business did. It's more about, okay, here's a couple highlights of as we looked at your business over the last quarter, how do we think we need to shift that? What are the opportunities? And helping them actually bring that to the CFO and potentially to the board. So a lot of it, again, has been not about an individual metric or a dashboard. It's how are we actually moving the business? And if we can show them this customer base actually grew by this %, that's what they're gonna wanna see. And we always see the kind of balance between the marketing, even technology and the CFO of whose wins, and it ends up being kind of an interesting conversation. But I would say that like the things that get killed are when you just have like a really small opportunity and you're not able to actually prove the value, which I find fascinating. A stat that I just saw was that, over 90% of B2B CMOs said that now, ROI and revenue generation is a key performance indicator. Now, why was that not before? That stat blew my mind because to me, if you're not proving ROI and revenue, what are you doing?
Right.
So it's just really interesting to say that this is now an important KPI.
Well,
So
finally got there.
finally got there.
Yeah, Chris, any builds upon that?
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. We don't speak the same language, right? Marketers are from Venus and CFOs are from Mars, right? We
Is it a book or something?
we talk completely different language.
Yeah.
And I think the onus is upon marketeers to take finance professionals, the teams, the CFOs, on a journey and explain to them how the fundamentals have changed, how consumption habits have changed, how modern marketing has changed from even just a small few years ago. And I think the onus is upon us to professionalize and understand that without the ability for marketing to understand and appreciate how modern marketing works, we're always going to fight an uphill battle. We did this research study a couple of years ago, Transmission, that was called Building the Board Ready CMO. Right? And it was a study of a few thousand senior marketeers. Many were on boards, company boards, and many weren't on company boards. And funny stat, actually, only 3% of public company boards actually have any marketing representation whatsoever, which is a staggeringly small number of individuals. So we did this research study and we tried to look at what facets of senior marketeers were prevalent in individuals that were on a company board versus not on a company board. And it really sort of boiled down to several different aspects, the biggest of which was, first and foremost, unsurprisingly, lack of financial acumen, right? We talk about it all the time. Secondly was the lack of industry-specific skill sets and expertise, not functional marketing skill sets, but industry, as in the vertical that they worked in. And the third one was lack of T-shaped skills. T-shaped skills being, the bottom of the T is your functional marketing, creative media, functional marketing skill sets, and the top of the T is your broader business aspects like legal, finance, compliance, and lots of different other more broad business aspects. So I think for us to be able to take finance individuals on a journey and get them to appreciate and understand the investments that we're making as marketeers, we have to speak their language and we need to come into their boardroom, not the other way around, because the onus is upon us. There's so few of us within the business boards that we're overwhelmed and we need to fight back.
We have to figure out that shared planet. So if it's Venus and Mars, like what's the one in the middle that they can be both a part of? Earth. That makes sense. That makes sense. Let's go with that. Thank you for that. Melissa, you've talked a lot about the next era of brand loyalty. And in B2B, we know trust and credibility have never mattered more. It always has, but now it's even more. What should brands be doing right now to earn that trust and stay relevant in this new era?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. Trust has been a hot topic of conversation, and I've spent a lot of my career in loyalty and CRM. And it's interesting. I was just listening to another panel where someone said, "Well, if you want loyalty, get a dog." And while I love my dog, I agree to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, consumers and customers are loyal if you provide them value. So for us, it's all about mutual value. We're B2B marketers. We're selling to companies to be their agency partner. And every single time, yes, we have the greatest data, the greatest technology. We are able to get you the best media buys. But guess what they care about? The relationship with the person. Who's my account person? How do I get along with them? Can I call them at any time? Do I trust them? So I think that's where we've been talking a lot about. At the end of the day, we are all loyalty marketers. Choose us. We want you to choose us forever, and then we want you to talk about us. So I think as we've seen that shift in this world of AI, we can't have a panel without talking about it.
First time you mentioned it.
Thank you. Trust and credibility are so important.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of, again, the AI slop, it's a hot topic, but at the end of the day, consumers want to know that you're being truthful, you're sharing the right information, you're not doing something with their data that you shouldn't be doing, and you actually are showing them how credible you are at your business. So that's really how we've been talking about it. And I think B2B is an area with, a lot of people are scared to make the decision, right? I figure we called it last time, it was like the fear of the decision making, right? So it's just really nervous about if I make this decision, is it the right one? We have to give them confidence, and the way we do that is through credibility and trust.
Yeah. And people buy people they know,
That's
like,
exactly
and trust.
Right.
Yeah.
Why are we here? If this didn't matter, we would not be at Cannes. This wouldn't exist. So the human to human and the relationships matter. We're here running around with all our clients all week. We just talked about Chris is stocking fridges and making sure foods and this is what we do with client services at the max.
Minding the details.
Yes.
Well, Chris, back to you. So you've claimed the riskiest thing a B2B brand can do today is play it safe. I love that. Whoa. Having worked with some of the world's biggest brands, how has the definition of great creative changed for your clients?
Yeah, I think it's been changing over the long term. I mean, if we look at what's happened probably in the last 10 years in B2B specifically, the prominence of creative differentiation to create that distinction of a brand is it's there to be seen. It's been gathering momentum over the last 10 years. Brands understand now that playing it safe makes you vanilla. Your wallpaper, you become unknown, not differentiated from your competitors at all. So you're invisible, right? So that's the last 10 years. I think the last, I want to say 5 max, probably as little as 3 or 4, I've seen a big change in just the application of creativity. I'm not just talking about some of the things that, Super Bowl ads on TV, although they are really good, and they're case studies that we use all the time. But some of the brands that are really sort of grasping different channels, creator influencer marketing, for instance, there's some really, really cool stuff happening in B2B. Branded sponsorships, branded storytelling, just anything from a sort of branded content perspective that's gaining more prominence in the industry. It's really, really good to see. And what it does is it creates differentiation and distinction because people don't expect to see it in that environment. Right, they expect B2B in certain environments that they've always seen those brands doing it over 20, 30 years. So that differentiation, the distinction creates a force multiplier effect that you don't necessarily get from running other forms of marketing. What I call not running dollar in, dollar out marketing. Right, you create creative distinction that gives you exponential credibility and coverage because the idea is brilliant, and then you need to put less dollars behind it to satisfy that idea.
I'm going to build and add on to that. What's the role of the agency specifically in doing that? And this is for both of you because obviously you work with these great brands, but what is it unique that the agency can help in this kind of risk-averse world sometimes?
Yeah, happy to.
Please go.
Yeah. I mean, Probably some of my creative directors will tell me off for using this word, but
You won't tell them.
because I use it and then I'm like, guys, can we be brave? And they're like, can you stop saying the word brave? It's not about being brave. It's just having a brilliant idea that, like I said, gets you exponential reach that you wouldn't necessarily have got from dollar in, dollar out advertising, the force multiplier. I think that's where agencies, particularly as we've seen, you mentioned it a minute ago, the role of AI and how it's starting to dominate the production side of creativity. Clients now want to pay for brilliant ideas. They've always wanted to pay for brilliant ideas, but they also paid for the production on the back end.
Yes.
When the production side of the revenue stream goes away, the creative ideation side of things comes right to the front. So we just need to keep pushing the boundaries of creativity and make sure that the agencies are the place where they go to get those brilliant ideas.
Love that. A build upon that, Melissa?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, all great points, and I completely agree. The reality is without some solid insights and a great brief, you don't get to those amazing ideas. And we have a lot of clients that'll say, push us, make us uncomfortable, and then they're like, ooh, I'm uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
So, but I love it because if you start to push them far this way, you might end up here where maybe they would have stayed over here. So I think the risk adverse, if you start kind of pushing, get them a little bit uncomfortable and say, okay, let's do a test.
Yeah.
Let's look at incrementality. Let's see if it worked. And so I think that's a lot of the conversation we have too is how can we just convince them to test into some things that they wouldn't have done previously and prove that, taking a little risk is actually worth it for their business. But couldn't agree more about the shifts in production. The ideas matter more than ever. And then you need thousands of variations on the back end. Okay. People understand AI is going to be leveraged there, but we still really need those amazing creatives and the insights to drive those ideas.
And having great people at the agencies that are built upon the relationship of trust and credibility.
100%.
I do think that goes a long way as well.
It really does.
Yes.
It really does because, if his team or my team, if the work isn't great, if it doesn't perform well, you're in trouble, whether it's, you're losing the client or you're having to prove yourself and give us another try. So I think it's all about making sure you have that right measurement plan, going back to the topic, tied to whatever great ideas that we have for the client to execute.
Love that.
Amazing.
Let's continue down this path. So this is for both of you. What's one move B2B brands can make right now to start connecting creative investment to revenue? Speaking of the measurement topic, have you kick us off?
Yeah, I think, venues like this, not the Carlton, but Cannes Lions Creative Festival are a great platform for us to see what, Carlton's very nice, for us to see what good looks like, right?
Yeah.
I encourage any client and some of our teams internally when we have a difficult stakeholder that is perhaps potentially a little bit risk averse to go look what good looks like.
Yeah.
Right? Go look at what good looks like, sorry. There are so many examples now that so many platforms like Cannes and lots of other award ceremonies and platforms and media and production companies that are available that also have great showcases. But I think without the examples for the clients to take back into their organization with the results on the back end of what it actually did for that organization, how are you going to convince a risk-averse board, a risk-averse finance professional that I don't think it's even taking a risk sometimes. The biggest risk is being safe and dull and boring and blending into the crowd. So I think look at really good examples of great work that has produced amazing results. Take that back into your organization and try and apply that to your business. Right? And that is something that's changed, particularly over the last few years.
Love that. Yeah, and you build upon that, Melissa.
Well, the fact that the Cannes Lions now have the B2B category, which we know has been a few years coming now. I started coming to your B2B day a few years ago, and I always just found it so profound, all the content, everything that's being shared, and really bringing forward the fact that creativity happens everywhere. It also happens in B2B. And guess what? There's some really interesting, cool things we can do in the B2B space that might be different than when you're trying to sell a CPG just to a consumer, when they're walking down the aisle of a store. So I love that that's been, to me, that proves that there is ROI and measurement tied to creativity in this space. But I love your point. Look at what is good. See who's winning. We actually, for Publicis Group, we all see every submission. that the group did, some B2B, some B2C. And it's really interesting. It just sparks your own ideas as you're thinking through that. And then our clients get to see all of it, gives them ideas and helps them push the boundaries. So I do think a lot of it is also where you're placing that creative, how you're looking at your growth audiences, and just letting them know where you can, like, again, get some of that incremental growth.
Yeah.
The only other thing I'll say, Tanya, is the rise in B2B creators. I love it.
Yeah.
And just influence in this space. We know consumers can and customers can be influenced. And I love the fact that we can leverage creators in this space now. And I think that's a different form of creativity, but that's another easy way for us to track the importance and the impact that that had on a business as well.
So that's all for today. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to follow along for this content and more on our LinkedIn for Marketing blog on the LinkedIn platform. Have a good rest of your day.